Well, do aliens walk amongst us? It is a question as old as time, and we could soon maybe have an answer. U.S. President Donald Trump has told the Pentagon and other government departments to disclose what they know about ETs and UFOs. Although it's not clear at this point what information the records contain or when they'll be made public. It has some wondering, could aliens really be real? Today we want to hear what you make of Trump's pledge. Are we alone, or is there more out there? If you think aliens exist, what is it that makes you a believer? Give us a call over the next half hour to share your thoughts. Here are the numbers. To call us 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893, or text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. Here to join us is Winnipeg's resident UFO expert, Chris Rutkowski, CBC journalist Bryce Hoy, who is also a, extraterrestrial believer, expert, also joins us in studio, too, to have a spirited discussion. Hi, Chris. Hi, Bryce.
Hi, Marjorie.
Hi. I want to start off with you, Chris. President Trump made these statements about the release of these documents. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, they're interesting. I mean, we have to be very careful what he actually said. He didn't actually say he's looking for things to disclose or come up with any classified stuff. He actually said he wants to begin the process to review to find out what files there are and then release files. Didn't say anything about classified files, didn't say anything about secret files, just sort of files, which could mean literally anything. And we already have quite a few files from the United States government. It's All Domain Anomaly Research Organization is actually releasing all sorts of documents already. We've had some before. It's hard to tell what he's going to come up with.
What prompted this? Because, I mean, every once in a while, discussion on UFOs does pop up again, is in the headlines. But why is he talking about the release of these documents?
Well, certainly it started, we think, because of what Obama said. And he was interviewed on a podcast and sort of asked rather flippantly, are aliens real? And he said, well, I'm sure they're real, of course. And he didn't say anything from his real knowledge, we think. Just that, there's probably aliens out there. And we, as far as we understand the stellar evolution and how we got here, they probably do exist. But he said they're probably not in Area 51 or any underground facility, to which Trump replied, and of course he's very antagonistic towards Obama, that, he shouldn't have said anything like that. That's classified information. Again, people are saying, well, what did he say that was so classified? So we think that a lot of this was in reaction, perhaps as a diversion from other files. But it's interesting that he said it at all. And, most presidents have been asked these questions many, many times over the past 50 years or so about UFOs. And, it's been treated relatively lightly. But the reality is there is some scientific credibility here. There are scientific organizations that are looking at the real phenomenon of UFOs and UAP. There are politicians now lobbying Congress for the release of this stuff. And of course, there's some files that have been released already. People have seen these videos all the time on podcasts and on YouTube. So there is a lot of scientific information, and science is getting on board.
We are talking about if you believe that aliens exist. Why or why not? Give us a call. Share your thoughts here on the call-in 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893, or text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. In studio today, joining us for our call-in is Winnipeg resident UFO expert Chris Rutkowski. Also, CBC journalist Bryce Hoy joins me now in studio. And Chris, I want to quickly go back to what will the release of these documents mean for the public? I mean, what can we expect? What can we learn? What is it going to do for us? If they when and if they are released.
Well, if they do release things that we haven't seen before, that'll be quite important because we do know there's quite a lot of cases out there. We do know that military personnel have seen UFOs. If I give just one example, this balloon or whatever it was that was shot down in Canada's north in 2023 by American fighter jets, we have been able to obtain something like 500 or 600 pages of documentation from National Defense and through various Canadian government institutions about what went on and, things about what type of missile was used and how they were vectoring towards it and so forth. Not a single page of documentation has been released from the American government about it. So if there's one thing, just one case, we could maybe learn a little bit more about what was going on.
Bryce, what do you make of all of this? Have you been following this quite closely?
I have been following it quite closely. And just some context, this isn't the first time that President Trump has talked about UFOs. In fact, when he was on the campaign trail to be elected again, he did make a variety of promises, including that he would release the files on UFOs. So in a way, we're kind of hearing echoes of that right now. And as Chris said, we're kind of in a bit of a vague language soup territory. We don't really know exactly what files he wants to release. However, I will say that there is some interesting developments north of the U.S. here in Canada that Chris has been involved with that I've interviewed him about. The Sky Canada Project released this report last year. It was tasked by the top scientist in Canada, and it was basically to do an environmental scan of the various different federal departments of what kind of UFO or UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, reporting guidelines we have in Canada at different departments, and it found that basically it's a patchwork, and that there's silos and different government agencies or defense agencies aren't talking to each other, they're not sharing information. And so the report called for sort of more of a unified approach and maybe a public-facing UAP UFO agency to kind of look at UFO reports. And Chris was consulted for this. So I wonder if maybe he can speak to that experience a little bit.
Well, yeah, this organization was looking at, like you said, what's currently being done or what has been done. And basically, there's a suggestion of what is needed as a central repository or a central office. Right now, if you see a UFO, what do you do? Who do you call? Who are you going to call besides Ghostbusters? But, I mean, is there an agency? Right now, Transport Canada accepts reports from Canadians, mostly from pilots, but also from the general populace. But, I mean, there's a number of private organizations, but there's no central repository and no investigating agency. There's no X-Files as such. Although I've been receiving government UFO files for quite some time, from National Defence and Transport Canada. And there's a lack of, not transparency, because we do get the reports, there's a lack of scientific rigor in this. And that's what we're really looking for. Science needs data, and there's a lot of UFO reports out there from people, about 1,000 every year in Canada. But we need the data.
We're talking here about whether or not you believe that aliens exist. Why or why not? Maybe there's a story you'd like to share. Chris has several stories, of course. You've heard Bryce talk a little bit more about it. But we want to hear from you to join the discussion here. Give us a call. Here are the numbers: 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. Text us 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. We have about just over 10 minutes left in this segment. But we do have some comments. I'm going to read some of the text. Thank you very much, Abby. Terry messaged us saying, I find it odd that they are releasing classified documents about extraterrestrial life, but still haven't released the Epstein files. This is clearly another attempt at deflection. And Anne messaged, yes, I believe aliens must exist. The galaxy is so huge, we can't be the only living beings in our universe. I think Trump is talking aliens now as a distraction to other files, specifically the Epstein files. So a couple of similarities there between Terry and Anne's comments. But the question that we're asking is do you believe that aliens exist? So I know that, Chris, obviously you do, because you've done a lot of research and you shared the work that you're doing with us. But Bryce, what about you? Do you believe?
I think that to borrow an old term from one of the older books, the term hubris comes to mind. When we think of our place in the cosmos and how vast it is, I am kind of getting into speculative territory here, but I would be shocked if we're the only time that life arose, let alone, simple or complex life. What kind of life are we talking about? That question is kind of at the center of so much of astrophysics and space science. Why are we looking for planets beyond our solar system? Why are we looking for what they call biosignatures in the atmosphere of planets? It's because of this innate curiosity that so many of us have about where we fit in this grand cosmic play, I guess, and whether we're alone, and what does that mean for how we comport ourselves here on Earth if we aren't alone.
We have a caller who now joins us on the line. Susan is on the line. Hi, Susan.
Oh, good afternoon.
Hi. What's your story? What's your comment?
I think there's a definite possibility that there could be other life other than the humans that we inhabit the earth with, and I believe Chris was involved in this at one time. My mother had an unidentified flying object land in her backyard along Highway 50.
Along Highway 50. How long ago was that, Susan? Do you recall the time?
Well, that'd be probably about 20 years ago now.
Okay, Highway 50.
She came home from a meeting one night, and the people dropped her off, and as she was walking across her yard to her door, she noticed lights out in her garden. And they, as she walked towards them, this massive craft lit up, and at a fairly high speed flew off into the air south of her house.
Very interesting. Susan, and I'm going to ask you this. Your mom said that she believed that aliens exist, but do you?
Oh, yeah, no, I do. I do as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't. We actually, my husband and I actually drove up to her yard, looked in the yard at where she said the spacecraft took off. You could see how the vegetation was looked different. It was circles about 14, maybe 20 feet across, and then it bounced along her driveway, and there was fluid that leaked out into her garden with little footprints in it.
Very interesting. Thank you, Susan. I'm going to get Chris to weigh in on this because I think you recall. Yeah.
I was just near Alonza, I think.
Well, south of there.
South of Alonza. I actually remember going out there and talking with your mom many years ago. That's true. It was very puzzling. And we do have cases like that. Very, very rarely now do we have reports where something comes down and lands and leaves marks. That used to be very popular in UFO lore for many, many years. Very, very rare now. In fact, I can't think of another case in the past 10 or 15 years or so. But we do have reports like that. And what do you do with cases like that? You try and get the soil analyzed and things like that. I have worked with a number of institutions, University of Manitoba and Winnipeg, to try and get things analyzed. And often it's inconclusive. They're interesting, but it doesn't prove that there's alien life, but it proves that something very strange happened.
So, you said that it's been a while, it's been a long time since there's been kind of like a story like that or proof like that. How often are you hearing stories? What do you hear from people, these days about what they're seeing or what they've spotted?
Well, we do get somewhere around 1,000 UFO reports in Canada every year that are recorded in one way or another that make their way to us. Every year we produce the Canadian UFO survey that takes information from civilians as well as military personnel. And, we try to do an analysis of this. The next report is coming out in probably within a couple of weeks now. I was just telling Bryce over the past few days, I've received a couple of reports from Transport Canada of pilots who had seen unusual lights moving in the sky. And you have to think, if a pilot is up there, he or she probably has a good idea of what should be or shouldn't be in front of the plane. And if there's something that shouldn't be there, well, maybe we should take a closer look. And this is why the project from Ottawa through the Science Advisor for Canada has said we should really get an office. We should take a better look at this. And perhaps Carney can, throw a few bucks in our direction in terms of defense, because this is a defense issue too.
Do you think that Carney will follow like Trump and maybe release some documents about what's been studied or documented here in Canada?
Interesting. Canada is much more transparent than the United States. In fact, we have 500 pieces of documentation just for the thing that happened in the Yukon. And I personally have something like 10,000 pages of documentation on cases here in Canada. So it goes back many, many years. There are a number of cases we don't know about, or some information that we think is being kept for one reason or another, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that it's a military operation or whatever. But would be nice to see what can be produced. Okay,
let's get to our next caller who joins us now on the line. Hi, Raymond.
Hi.
Hi, what's your take on this?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I think it's largely a hoax. It's not true.
Okay, so you don't believe that aliens exist?
There are no other human forms inhabiting this planet with us. but that's not to say that there are no other forms of life in the universe. So if you look at it from the point of the Bible, there are angels, and the Bible said that God does not do anything without revealing it to his prophets. Mm-hmm. So there are angels, and there are other spiritual entities, and sometimes being recorded, they appear like human beings. Mm-hmm. They can appear like birds. And there are comets, those things they are calling UFO. And some of those things could be covert operations by human beings or military activities, could be from the military-industrial complex. So some of those things are calling UFO.
Okay.
So but it's not to say that, like I said before, the universe is so large, it's like a sea. Mm-hmm. And I think it's wrong for human beings to say that they only fish in the sea.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raymond. Chris, I want to get your take on that.
Absolutely. One of the prevailing arguments is that perhaps we are looking at advanced technology from Russians or from the Chinese, or perhaps from the Americans themselves that are, some sort of very, very secret black project. We do know that, companies like Lockheed and others have very advanced technology that they're testing out at Area 51, and in Canada, sort of the equivalent is out at Suffield or Cold Lake. So we do know things are being tested. Maybe that's what some of these things are. We're simply not sure.
Mm-hmm. Bryce, you've been listening in. What do you think?
Well, the last caller made me think about an author from the U.S. named Diana Walsh Pasulka, who actually talks about sort of this intersection between spirituality, history, and, modern UFO lore, and maybe what's behind this. And she just had a book come out. So I would just recommend that caller might find that interesting. I think that, I covered one of these UFO congressional hearings on Capitol Hill in late 2024, and I will just say that it was quite a strange experience. There was a sort of rock star sort of mentality. Hundreds of people, members of the public, lined outside Capitol Hill to get some of the few public seats available for this hearing. There's this cultural moment we're in right now where there's this, surge in fascination in this topic, and some of it has to do with these congressional hearings that are occurring, and you have whistleblowers, people who on paper, they have no reason to lie about potentially, alleged shadowy government reverse engineering projects, what have you. However, there hasn't been any smoking gun evidence that has emerged. No alien corpse, no craft pulled out of a hangar in the public square for us all to see. And my feeling is that it's going to require something really, really strong to persuade the masses. Carl Sagan said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I think that's something we should all bear in mind when we see this stuff happening and it's elevated to this place of legitimacy when you have presidents talking about it. Is it worth investigating? Absolutely. Just bear in mind that we do not have that smoking gun proof just yet.
Mm-hmm. Such a fascinating conversation. We still have a couple minutes left here to take your comments. Give us a call. We're asking you if you believe that aliens exist, why or why not. Numbers to call 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893, or text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. Chris, if someone spots something in the sky, how do they go about reporting it or investigating it, or where do they go with this information?
Well, that's a very good question. I actually had a post on my blog just saying, where do you report these things? And it's very complicated. There are a number of civilian UFO organizations. You can report things directly to Transport Canada as a civilian. Pilots are doing that all the time. But there are, the Canadian UFO Survey, we do accept UFO reports through that. It's at CanadianUFOReport.com. It's that simple. And we do get cases all the time. And if you do see something, you're in good company because, 1,000 cases a year, that means 3 a day, something like that. From coast to coast to coast, all genders, all ages, you can, any shape you can imagine. And, certainly a lot of these cases, most of them turn out to have easy explanations, stars, planes, satellites, and you name it. But there's a small fraction every year that are puzzling, and that's what keeps people going.
I think it's what keeps people intrigued for sure. So we have about 30 seconds left here. I'm going to give each of you a chance to have the final word. Bryce, what are you going to be following here?
Well, I'm going to be following Chris's forthcoming annual report with some of the numbers that are coming out. I understand he's been working also on some other new project that might be coming out in the months to come. So I'll be watching for that as well. And of course, there are these congressional hearings happening in the U.S., the Sky Canada project. What's to come of that? That's what I'll be watching.
And Chris, what about you?
Well, Bryce was alluding, I do have a book coming out this summer. And, it's true. There's lots of mysterious stuff out there. And to use a popular phrase, the truth is out there. Unfortunately, we're stuck down here.
Well put, yes. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Bryce. Thanks, Abby, for the sound effects. They really did add to the conversation today. Thank you to both of you. Chris Rutkowski is a Winnipeg-based UFO expert, and Bryce Hoy is a reporter here at CBC Manitoba.